day 3 of the Fab Clique Sew Along. We are sewing up the Petite Stitchery PS I Love You today. So hopefully you've downloaded your pattern, you've cut out your pieces, hopefully you have your fabulous fabric from Fab Clique so that you can get yours cut out ASAP. And for today, you're just going to need your front bodice, back bodice, sleeves, and that's it. Because we're going to do basic construction today, we're going to do the shoulder seams, which is the same no matter what model style that you're making. You're going to do the shoulder seams the same way. Then we're going to attach the seams, or the sleeves after we do the shoulder seams. And the sleeves have basically the same construction whether you're doing bishop or regular sleeve, because even the non-bishop sleeve is still a full sleeve that needs to be gathered, just not as much as the bishop sleeve. So Suzanne is going to show you how to do that. But sleeve assembly is still basically the same. We're going to attach the sleeve, then we're going to sew up the side seam. Now if you are doing a split hem, your side seam is going to look a little bit different than anyone doing a regular banded hem option. So I am going to show you how to do the side seam for a split hem, and then I'm going to send it to Suzanne. She's going to show you her bishop sleeve and how she's going to do the side seam for a banded hem, and then we'll all be on the same page. And then tomorrow when we come back, we're going to attach our bands and our cuffs. And I will show you how to do the split band, and Suzanne's going to show you how to do the band, the regular band. So they're very similar in construction, but you'll see when we get there. So let's get started. So I have my bodice pieces here, and then I've got my sleeves. My sleeves are right here, ready to go, okay? So what you want to do, this is super simple dolman assembly. Dolmans are fantastic if you are not a super confident sewer yet, because they're very simple to assemble. So I really like dolmans when I first started sewing, but they also look like so cute on like so many different people, and so they're great for no matter who you're sewing for, and especially if you have awesome fabric from Fab Clique, then you will have lots of different options for your wardrobe. Okay, so here's our bodices, okay? Mine looks a little bit different because I want to do a slightly wider neckline. Yours, you don't have to do it that way, or if you're doing a cowl, yours is going to look similar to this. And if you're doing a V-neck, it's going to look different from this also. But we will talk about neck bands on the last day. So for your shoulder seams, all you're going to do, take your bodice pieces, put them right sides together. See, I've got my fluffy hachi in the middle here. Fluffy hachi. Okay, so shoulder seams together. All right, see how that lines up? Pretty much straight. And is my serger on? I should have checked that before we started, right? So I am just going to sew this up real quick. This is a 3/8 seam allowance. So on most sergers, you're barely cutting anything off. You're cutting off 1/8 of an inch because the stitching of your serger is 1/4 of an inch. So you won't cut off very much at all. So, all the way to the end. Now, if you want, if you're using a fabric that stretches very easily, like if you're using a rayon spandex, which you can use for this pattern, it is a sweater pattern, but Fab Clique has lots of different kinds of fabrics, and most of them, the ones with the 4-way stretch, are fabulous for this. But even if you have a fabric with like 2-way stretch, you can still make it work. But if you're using something more lightweight, like a double brush poly, or like I said, a rayon spandex has a tendency to grow, and also some sweater knits might end up being a little looser than you want them to be after they're sewn, and so those you can just add elastic, clear elastic to your seam as you sew on your shoulder seams, and that will help give the seam a little bit more support and body so that you don't have to worry about it sagging as much. But for the sweater knit, it's totally fine as is. I'm not worried about it at all. So, okay, that's it for the shoulder seams. Ta-da! They are sewn. Now, for the sleeves, this is very simple. It's very simple. Okay, so all right, so this is it, right sides together, right? Open it up. Here's your right side of your fabric. So we're gonna have that up because we're gonna do our sleeves right side together. When you are cutting your sleeves, little tip, friendly advice, I recommend, because the way they're shaped, it can be kind of hard to figure out the top and the bottom. So when you're cutting, the pattern piece looks like this, or a little bit wider if you're cutting a wider sleeve. I would recommend throwing a clip or pin at the top there where your fold line is. This way, when you go to sew it on, you'll know which is the top. And we'll go right sides together. Line that clip up with your shoulder seam that you just sewed. And then you don't have to guess, oh, which is the top, which is the bottom. Because there has been more than one time when I have gone to sew on a sleeve, especially dolman sleeves, because it's not as obvious on dolman sleeves since they're shaped more rectangularly or trapezoidy. I don't know. They're shaped differently. They're not shaped like a regular set-in sleeve has that nice curve, so it's pretty obvious where the sleeve part is that goes into the shoulder. Dolman sleeve, not always the same way. So I have sewn a dolman sleeve or two on sideways, upside down. Yeah, I mean, these are all mistakes that everyone makes, no matter how long you've been sewing. Sometimes those things just creep up on you, especially if you sew late at night like I do, after you've put all the kids to bed and you're just exhausted, but you want to really make something for yourself. So, all right, so I've got this clipped. I'm just going to sew this right along here, same 3/8 seam allowance. And here we go. So far, very simple. Yes, you got it? Oh, that's another thing. When I first started sewing, I didn't always pay attention if there was fabric underneath, like getting bunched up as I was sewing on my serger. And sometimes you end up like sewing like the edge of your sleeve, like it kind of flips up and gets stuck underneath your needle. And then you have to rip that out, and that's no fun. Almost done with sleeve number 1. All right, one sleeve on. Yay! Okay, let's do the other side. So I can find the other side. I always get like lost in my fabric, lost in my pattern piece. Okay, here it is on the other side of the neck. Other side of the neck opening. All right, so other sleeve. See, I should have put my clip in. All right, I think this is the hem of the sleeve. So I'm just gonna go like this. That makes this, all right, this little, see this little corner here? That's our armpiece, whatever. Okay, so tell me, because I'm sure there are some people out there who have never made a big mistake like sewing a leg on sideways. I've done that too. Done the neckband upside down. Have you guys done that? Where the seam is like in the middle and the front and you're like, we're gonna call that a design feature, right? No, I'm sure you guys have never done that. I'm sure that's only me. All right, I'm just trimming this off. I'm still learning to cut with my projector and it's not always the cleanest cut, so that was a little bit of an oopsie that I just trimmed off. Pretend you didn't see that because we don't make mistakes here, right? We are all perfect sewists. Okay, so we're just clipping again. If you pin, you pin. I like clips. I probably wouldn't sew as much if I had to use pins because I stab myself constantly. And I just can't take that much pain for that long. So, all right. Ready? Let's sew. Jess, why are you so excited sewing sleeves on? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because I'm downstairs away from my family for a few minutes. Because I love them. I love them dearly. But, whew, I have 8 kids. They exhaust me. They exhaust me. So this is mommy's time. So that's why we're doing this. So yes, let's sew some sleeves. Mommy needs a new sweater because it is winter. It hasn't been that cold. But eventually it will be, right? Right? I don't know. If we don't get snow, I'm like in Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. Right outside of D.C. and it just does not snow here that often. It's very disappointing, but that's okay. Someday it'll be cold and I will need a nice fuzzy warm sweater and I will be ready. Okay. Ta-da! Our other sleeve done. Now, let's look at this. See, you can see it's starting to come together, starting to look like a shirt and not just weird cuts of fabric. Okay, for the side seam, Suzanne's going to show you how to finish the bishop sleeve part. She's going to show you how to do the sleeve, but I'm going to show you how to do the side seam for the split hem. If you are not doing a split hem, feel free to skip the rest of this video, or at least the rest of my part of the video. Feel free to skip to Suzanne. We'll put a timestamp there because you don't need to watch the rest of this part. Suzanne's going to go over it in her video, how to do it if you're doing a banded hem. If you're doing the split band, keep watching because I do it a little differently than in the tutorial. And not that there's anything wrong with the tutorial, it's just that my sewing machine does not like knits. It doesn't. I don't know what its problem is, but it hates knits. So I avoid using it on knits as much as possible. So I use my serger for as much stuff as I can. So I'm using it for the side seam. If you want your insides to look pretty, follow the tutorial and use the sewing machine. If you don't care, or if your sewing machine hates you, or if it just hates knits, maybe it doesn't hate you, it just hates knits. I can't really get a lot sewn on there very nicely at all. So I think it just hates me. Maybe it doesn't hate knits, it just hates me. But yeah, then you can follow the tutorial if you have a good relationship with your sewing machine. I have a good relationship with my brother. So we're gonna use my brother here. It's a brother serger, in case you don't have a brother serger and you're like, what is she talking about? And we're gonna sew this up. Okay, so basically we are sewing this up the same way as you would a normal side seam. However, do you see how these are not the same length? This is the front bodice, this is the back bodice. When you're doing the split hem, they're not the same length. And we're gonna add bands to make the front a little bit longer, make the back a little bit longer, but they're still not gonna be the same length. So we are going to leave, I would say this much. I'm gonna put a clip there. We're gonna leave the bottom 3 inches, 4 inches. Should I measure? I just eyeballed it, but it's like 3-ish inches from the end of the front hem. We're gonna leave that unsewn, so we have a little bit of a split, okay? A little bit of a side slit going on there. So we're gonna sew with the serger up until that clip, all right? And then you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, when you get to the armpit area where the sleeve meets the bodice, on the dolman it's pretty straight. Like you can just kind of like bend it straight to make it a straight line so you can sew it straight. On other shirts, it's more, you probably can't see this, but it's more of like a V. It's more of a 90-degree angle, and that could be a little tricky. But I watched a video on YouTube when I was learning how to use my serger to kind of like gather up your fabric, kind of gather it up next to the foot, and that makes a nice straight edge so that when you sew, you don't end up with a hole in the armpit. Because I used to do that a lot, especially when sewing in set-in sleeves. I had that problem a lot, so that's a little tip. I'm sure most of you sewists are like pros and probably like, we know that, Jess. Well, just in case you didn't, because I didn't when I first started sewing, and in case you didn't know, now you know. Okay, so because it's a serger, I can't just end my stitching and back stitch and have a nice straight line. I had to sew off like this. Now, before I attach my bands tomorrow, I am going to hem this. I'm going to actually sew a little bit with my sewing machine, like 1 inch. That's it. That's all I'm giving my sewing machine is like 1 inch. And then I'm going to hem this so that it's so purty. Okay? And then I'll attach my bands. But we're going to talk about that more tomorrow. For now, I mean, I could show you. I'll do the other seam real quick. The other arm. I was going to send you to Suzanne, but I'll just do this real quick. And like I said, if you're doing a banded hem, you can skip me and just go right to Suzanne. Especially if you're doing well, actually everybody needs to watch Suzanne for the sleeves because she's going to show you how to do the gathering on the sleeves. in preparation for cuffs tomorrow. So everybody go watch Suzanne. She has good info for you. Well, see, it's probably a good thing I measured for you guys, because I should probably stay consistent here, right? 3-ish inches. I know everybody who's like super technical is probably like, oh my gosh, she said 3-ish. Is it 3 1/4? 3 5/8? No, it's 3-ish. If you were looking for a technical sew-along, I am not your host. But hopefully you're having fun, and hopefully you end up with something cute to wear. All right. There's the other one done. So I'm going to send this over to Suzanne. She's going to show you how to do the sleeve to get the gathering done on your bishop sleeve, and how to finish the side seam for a banded hem. So take it away, Suzanne. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks, Jess. At this point, Jess has walked you through the shoulder seams, the sleeve, and I'm going to be showing you how to put the side seam in and how to gather up the bottom of that sleeve for the bishop sleeve, because that's what I'll be doing. But before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to the Fab Clique for this amazing fabric. I unboxed it, started cutting it, and I just fell in love with it. Isn't it beautiful? Can you see the color? Oh, it just shows up so well. It's called teal, and it is teal. It's got a lot of green in it, but I'm loving it. It's this Hachi sweater, nice and furry on one side, just kind of flat on the other side. So it makes it easy to sew. I'm just loving it. Another shout out to them for this month's new arrival. This is part of the new arrival. It just came in, I believe a week or two ago, something like that. You'll find it right on the front of the website. This is a baby French terry. I am so in love with it. It comes in this color and in green. I have already sewed the blue. My green is sitting in the cabinet waiting to be sewn. I just love it. So if you haven't shopped some of the new arrivals at the Fab Clique, be sure to. I know there's a discount code that comes with this sew along, so I hope you'll take advantage of that. Last thing, because I'm kind of a product girl, this is, Jess mentioned the shoulder seams and adding clear elastic to them. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but I ran across this new product. It is called Sew Keys, S-E-W-K-E-Y-S. If you notice, this is the woven stay tape. This is what the owner, I think her name is Emma. Yeah, Emma Seabrook. This is what she recommends for the shoulder seam in knits, because it doesn't move. It does help hold them a little tighter, keep things from sagging. I don't always use it. I did use it on this particular piece. Here it is right here. Let's see, let me get a hand here. That's what it looks like. It's fusible on one side, so I usually just fuse mine down. This is the shoulder seam. Fuse it down, and then I can just sew it into the serge seam. You see that right there? Okay, sewn right into the serge seam, just to give it a little more stability. I don't like it to sag. I don't know that it would, but I don't know, I'm kind of a cautious girl. So anyway, I've sewn my shoulder seam. My sleeve is in. Just now we're gonna sew the side seams together. I had laid it out on the table ahead of time. I'm trying to be prepared for everyone, so I don't have to fumble too much, you know. I've laid it out right sides together. Again, just like Jess said, furry side of mine is the right side. So I've put it right sides together. I am doing the banded version. So my two, this is holding it upside down. Let's see. There we go. This is the hemline. Mine actually meet exact, okay? I know hers has a longer back than it does the front. Yeah, something like that. And I'm anxious to see how she does that side seam. I'm not very good at that. I'm anxious to learn. So, but in my case, my two come together because I'm going to put a band. So all I've done is put right sides together. I've clipped it just like Jess. I don't like a pin. I like the clips. One difference that I do, I'm kind of funny about where my shoulder seams come together. Actually, that's not a shoulder seam, the underarm. Where they come together, I really like them to line up. So I tend to check them and double check them. I was a quilter at one time. learned a little trick that if you take your seams and you lay them to opposite sides, there we go. And then I'm going to put a pin in that, but way down at the bottom so my serger doesn't eat it. And then put a clip on the top. That kind of helps it. And then I pay a lot of attention to mine as it's coming through. I don't know, it's just my thing. I mean, I've certainly missed many times my seams are off, but I do try hard to get them. So literally, they're just right sides together. This is the tip of the sleeve. I've already shown you the tip of the hem. They line up as well they should if they were cut properly. Oh, I noticed the keyword there, should. Again, I use a serger just like Jess does. I'm just gonna serge them straight through. Give me just a quick second and we'll be there. 3/8 inch of a seam allowance, again, just like Jess was showing you. So here we go. Now we're going. I think I had my pedal stuck. It just feeds right through. Bunch it up in my lap. Just like Jess says, when you get to this where they meet under the arm, kind of straighten it out. Then it'll kind of come together. So you don't have the hole. Pull my pin out. Yeah, I've done that before. Have you ever broken a needle over a pin? I know. It's one of those things you say you'll never do, but you do. Yeah, we've all done it. How about getting a needle in your finger? Have you ever done that? Ooh, no, I've never done that. No, Suzanne, I've never done that. Keep going down. I probably have more clips on here than but I'm also good at malaligning. Is that a word? Misaligning the seam sometimes. Quick tip, if you get to the bottom and the two pieces suddenly don't meet, I kind of stretch mine a little bit to be sure they do, but sometimes it's your differential on your serger. I've seen that question come up all the time. Mine are never perfect. I can never get that differential exactly right, especially with swim fabric. Okay, so I kind of cheated. I went ahead and sewed the other side while we were away. So both of my side seams are in now. Let's hold this up. Where's my shoulders? There are my side seams. I know you can't see me, but you can see my side seams. There they are. There's my V-neck. Let's talk about that bishop sleeve, because I love it. As Jess said, mark the top of your sleeve so you know which is the top and which is the bottom. I did find it pretty easy on this one, as the top of this sleeve is definitely smaller than the bottom, because the bishop, you've got to have a lot of space for the bishop to make that nice little billow. We're going to run a gathering stitch right along the bottom of this bishop sleeve. I do mine on my sewing machine, set it on at least a 5mm length. Mine, I believe, let's see, what do you go to? Mine will actually go to a 10. So I've actually set mine on a 10. I use a contrasting thread because so many times I've lost it. I can't find it, and trying to find it in this sweater fabric and dig it out, I'm really gonna pass. Especially on the bobbin, I always like it to be contrasting. So all we're gonna do is get rid of some of these serger tails. We'll talk about serger tails as we're ready to tack them down. Maybe tomorrow, maybe on the final day we'll talk about those. So I'm just gonna go over to the sewing machine, run a long gathering stitch right along the bottom. Somewhere, I like to come in about 1/4 inch, somewhere like that. Leave a tail at the beginning, run your gathering stitch, don't cut it off tight, pull it out, leave another tail so you've got something to pull. So I'm going to, if you can still see me, can you still see me over here? Let's turn you a little bit. Okay, that's better. Let's rearrange. Not much space here, a lot of stuff. I always have more stuff. Probably got a snack over there and some water, so don't look too closely. All right, just gonna run a long gathering stitch. also do embroidery. So I don't know if you can fully see my big machine now as I'm doing this. But I have the Big Brother embroidery machine. I love it. It's called a dream machine. And let me tell you, it is a dream. That's how I got started in sewing. I did all embroidery. And I was trying to embroider on ready-to-wear stuff. And I thought you can. You certainly can. It's not without its challenges, especially on the type machine I have. Mine's not an industrial or anything. It's definitely a home machine. But that got me wanting to make my own clothes. That's how I got started. I keep saying I'm going to put embroidery on some things. I haven't gotten there yet, but I will. Yeah, right. All right, let's go back over here where we can see one another a little better. There we go. Are we still there? Sorry to keep moving you around. There's that two machine thing I'm trying to use here. So all we're gonna do is simply pull this back thread, or otherwise known as the bobbin thread, and that's what's gonna gather them up. But I'm not gonna do that today. I'm gonna wait and do that tomorrow when I have my cuff ready. So, because I like to fit my pieces down in the cuff, pull the thread at that time, then I know exactly how much I need to gather it. That's what's gonna make the nice little blousey piece of your bishop sleeve. Easy peasy, right? We're almost halfway there. This is a really easy one. Thank you guys for joining us today. Jess and I are honored to be here, honored to have you join us. Be sure to check out the Fab Clique. The website is right here. Go and check out these gorgeous new arrivals, as well as some of the other things. I know there's been a lot of stuff on sale lately. I think there's a special that comes out most Fridays for a sale piece. Prices are very reasonable and I love them, especially this blue, by the way. This is the one you need. It's beautiful. No, you need this green. No, the blue. Just get them both. All right, thanks for joining us. We will see you guys tomorrow. We'll be working on cuffs and bands. Can't wait to see you again. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.